Welcome back to Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. Since it's only a week or so until Christmas, I wanted to replay some thoughts that I first posted back in November of 2019. It just may give you something to think about before getting together with others over the holidays. I hope it helps. Everyone has the life work of figuring out who they are. There are no exceptions. As a child, you listen to those around you who can observe you, measure you against what they know, and come up with conclusions. The part where they measure you against what they know is a critical piece of the puzzle here. You are not being judged by those who are spiritual masters. You are being sized up by fallible humans who may or may not understand anything about you. The people who seek to define you may have limitations or motives that are not visible to you. They probably do not understand your level of spiritual awareness, and it's near impossible for them to clearly know and understand your curriculum. All they can do is bounce it off their own level of understanding. It is reasonable and necessary to try to understand the motives of those who seek to define you. Is their definition of you one that makes you smaller than them? Is their definition one that they use to elevate themselves? It's fair to question whether the source of opposition has the intent of growing you or destroying you. That is not to say that you can't grow from information that came from a tainted source. You can, but it takes powerful discernment abilities to pull that off. Who were you deemed to be? Were you the smart one, the pretty one, the stupid one, the capable one, or the incapable one? Did people label you as nice or mean? Were you the fat one or the skinny one? Were you the funny one or the shy one? Were you the responsible one or the crazy one? Growing up, my father thought I was smart, and my mother thought I was stupid. I internalized my mother's opinion because I heard it more often. I didn't learn until my mother was very old that she had internalized the fact that her family of origin saw her as the stupid one. So she assumed some of her children were the same. She was dead wrong. Whatever you are defined as, you must wonder, compared to what? One of the greatest dangers of accepting an outside definition of yourself is that it was the result of a very small sample group. You were measured against the other people in your family, or maybe your neighbors. Once that definition is subjected to a larger control group, you may be happy or sad to see it dissolve. For some, it's sad to find out that someone needs to be the dumbest person at Stanford. Someone needs to be the most plain, beautiful person in Hollywood. If you excel at being an evil tyrant, there will always be someone who comes along who can imagine even more horrific things than you have. Others will be thrilled to find out that the thing that made them strange to those who first judged them is what makes them wonderfully unique and a breath of fresh air to the world at large. When people define who you are, they usually do not have the capacity to take into account everything you have ever said and done, along with the intent behind each action. The definition does not take into account the growth you have achieved. It is impossible to sum up another person. They're just too complex. I watched a magnificent documentary about Henry Ford and sustained whiplash going back and forth in my assessment of who he was as a person. He was a very important person in terms of moving the collective culture forward, while often being a truly despicable human being. He improved lives. He destroyed lives. His choices and their outcomes were extreme on both a public and personal level. In the end, it would be impossible to define him in a fair and appropriate manner. He was clearly successful in terms of earth experience, but his spiritual awareness level was very low, and that played out in shocking ways. Life is complicated. Good people do things that turn out badly. People with bad intentions can accidentally do things that work out for the good of all. It is much more disturbing if you expect success on an earth experience level to somehow equate to a high spiritual awareness level. As we've discussed before, it is easier to achieve earth experience success if you have a low level of spiritual awareness because you aren't encumbered by integrity or concern for others. The definitions that others have of you can serve as fuel or they can serve as shackles. It all depends on the type of person you are. Are you willing to accept what someone else thinks, or are you one of the people who lives to prove others wrong? We are never more aware of how people hold us than when we get back together with them, like at the holidays. If you only saw your family members once a year, you would meet up as entirely new people each time. The year would have reshaped all of you in one or more ways. You would not be in the same place as a person because every single choice you make moves you away from the place you were when the decision was made. Some people over the course of the year may have moved forward a bit. Some may have moved forward dramatically. Some may have moved backwards, but you are all different. You have been through so many different iterations of yourself since you all lived under the same roof. It makes less sense to split your roles into the oldest, the youngest, or the middle, because those terms have little meaning in the life you now live outside the family. The parents used to be at the top of the food chain when you were young, but now all the grown children are at the top of their own food chain. This changing dynamic is often the source of great conflict in families. Recognizing that it is completely predictable should make it less so. In circumstances like a family gathering or a gathering of friends, it's a trick of the mind to try to reconnect by finding evidence that the person is who you remember them to be. A simple sideways glance may be all you need to confirm that you have always been seen as less than by that relative. Any comment can be parsed to find the word that connects them to their past behavior. Anything can seem like a slight or a challenge, but it is just as valid to find the look or word that provides a clue to who that person is now or where that person is heading in the future. This is not to say that everyone from your past needs to be an active member of your life now. There are many people in this world who are operating at a low level. The limitations of their current level of spiritual awareness makes them difficult, if not downright dangerous. You cannot actively change that for them. You can live your life in a way that gives them clues about how to move forward, but you cannot drag them kicking and screaming into a more enlightened place. Finding a way forward is in their curriculum. Do not try to take that from them. Some people will be very uncomfortable with the fact that you are growing and changing. They hold you in a certain way in their heart and mind and feel a need to keep you right there. It's not your job to stay small for the comfort of someone else. In all cases, remember that you are responsible for your own forward movement. Protect your ability to do so at every turn. With the holidays upon us, I want to talk about some of the concepts as they apply to real life. This first one is really rough. In upcoming segments, we can discuss issues that are way less severe, but let's get the worst out of the way first. I read one letter from a woman who was concerned about the upcoming holiday celebrations because her mother was telling lies about her and actively trying to turn the rest of the family against her. Their history is that the writer was molested by her father when she was a child. The mother knew about it and blamed her. Now the writer is grown, has a family of her own, and is still terrorized by this woman when the family gets together for the holidays. She was wondering how to survive another round. Let's see if we can break this down. There are people in your life who will never be there for you. Those people may be your parents. I can't imagine which is worse, having a father who molests you or a mother who is low enough to blame you. The culture tells us that we must stay in contact and get together with these people, no matter what our past may have been. Is this really what's best? This woman is in the position of being a pattern interrupter. A pattern interrupter chooses to enter into a family that has a toxic, destructive pattern. This pattern may have unfolded over the course of many generations. The pattern interrupter saw that and chose to come here to stop the pattern from continuing. You would like to think that the pattern interrupter has the power to change the people who are actively participating in the pattern, but that's not usually the case. The only power a pattern interrupter has is to do it differently than it has been done in the past, to create a brand new pattern that their own family can carry forward, effectively breaking that chain. It makes me sad when I read all these letters about people who are trying so desperately to fit in with families that are locked into a toxic pattern that's held in place by low-level people. We are wired to connect, but that just isn't always possible. And understand, the pattern interrupter is usually not well received by everyone who is invested in keeping the toxic pattern in place. In this woman's case, not only would I not want to spend the holidays with my parents, but I wouldn't want my children to be anywhere near either of them. They are not safe people. They are co-conspirators of the lowest order. No one's children are safe around them. And it goes beyond the molesting. Obviously, it's important to not allow any contact that can result in molesting, but you also have to think about your children absorbing the pattern, which includes a complete lack of ethics, boundaries, and common decency. Low-level people are always looking to drag people down to their level, as is evidenced by the mother creating the drama that will make her daughter look bad to the rest of the family. She will surely try to spread the lies about her daughter to her grandchildren. As a parent, you have not only a right, but an obligation to keep your children away from that which does them harm. Additionally, when you expose children to bad people, the children begin to take on the opinion of, this is who we are, which is heartbreaking. These people are actively teaching your children a way of being that they believe to be acceptable. No good can come from your children being around these two. So what does a pattern interrupter do? You interrupt the pattern by creating an entirely new context for your family. You create a safe and loving environment for them to flourish in, devoid of toxic people. This should be a joyful choice, not anything that is seen as a failure. You get to create the family of your dreams with your own children. You get to take everything that your toxic family did and reject it all. You can focus instead on holidays that honor your family, gatherings where people are loving and kind, gatherings where people have fun, and it's all free of drama. You can show your children an entirely new way for families to operate, a way that you're proud of, a way that they'll be proud of. Make new traditions of your own. Let everyone in the family contribute an idea of something they think would make a great holiday. Cook together, watch movies together, go for walks. Do whatever's fun for you. You can't raise up low-level people. You can't fix the past. You can't love them in a way that will magically make them the family of your dreams. But you can make a family of your dreams in your own home. These people were not there for you, and they're not there for you now. They're not going to be there for you in the future. That's a hard reality to swallow, but the beauty of this situation is that you have the power to create something loving and kind and magnificent that will shape your children and create an entirely new pattern for their lives and the lives of all future generations. So how does she extract herself and her family from this tradition? I think she can simply let them know, through the easiest means possible, that she won't be able to make it this year. No further explanation needed. Then drop it and move forward with creating the new version of the holidays. It's not her job or destiny to be continually re-traumatized by these people. She didn't come to the planet to be another player in this pattern. If other family members want to get in touch with her, they will. You can always meet for coffee and get caught up. But she doesn't owe them an explanation. And in fact, she shouldn't get into any sort of gossip whirlwind like her mother would. All of this is beneath her. She needs to act in accordance with her own level of spiritual awareness, which we already know is higher because she is the truth teller and is bothered by the toxic pattern. In the rebirth, we will no longer be bound to people or traditions that make us miserable. There is no way to feel anything but miserable when you're trapped in a house with people who are working against your best interest. The fact is, not everyone is deserving of your time and attention, no matter what their relationship is to you. That sounds cold, but it's true. What are her children learning by being in the house of dangerous, toxic grandparents? Nothing good. What are they learning if they're safely in their own home with people who love and support them? Showing up at the house of the toxic grandparents gives strength and legitimacy to them. That's the last thing they need. It would be more likely that they would have time for the self-reflection needed to get to a higher level if they were not propped up by those who they have damaged. In reality, they probably won't ever change, which is not on her. It's just not her responsibility. In a perfect world, we all have families who love us and bring their best to holiday gatherings. Not everyone is that lucky. The world is made better by people who are kind, supportive, and loving, sharing those attributes with others, in turn inspiring them to be more supportive, loving, and kind. The world is not made better by people who are kind, supportive, and loving, being locked in traditions with people who are not kind to them, who are not supportive of them, and do not actually love them. It neither brings the lower level people up or allows higher level people to be immersed in the inspiring behaviors of others. It just turns into a depressing act of self-harm. In the rebirth, let's drop the guilt and sense of responsibility we have for those who have no intention of being decent people, no matter what our relationship is with them. You are not beholden to people who do you harm. It will lift everyone up to know that they are expected in all arenas to be decent people, and that the natural consequence for being a nightmare is that you won't have the company of other people. Natural consequences are almost the only hope you have that those at the lowest levels will choose to change. But that's their problem. You've got your own stuff to work on. Are you facing any challenge, big or small, during the holidays? Let's see what we can do with that. Send your email to rebirthrev@gmail.com. Tell everyone you know to join us in the revolution by listening on YouTube or Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, Apple Podcasts. If you follow and rate us, it will make it easier for others to find us. I have no idea how anyone finds this podcast, but I am hugely grateful when they do. Shout out to new listeners in New York and Italy. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Until next week, be open, be aware, watch for clues, and make a list of the holiday activities that make you the happiest. Remember, you are loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Have a delicious week.